Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode on the Happy Practice Playbook. I'm Mo Jones, and in each episode of this show, you'll hear conversations with dentists, office managers, staff, and specialists who know how to create a happy practice. Today, we're joined by Debra Nash, a consultant speaker and a recipient of the Gordon Christensen Outstanding Lecture Award. She was also the second woman and first non dentist to receive that award. In addition, she is also on the 20th year running the Nash Institute of Dental Learning and the president-elect of the American Academy of Dental Practice, which is a 63-year organization that perpetuates private practice dentistry. In addition to all of that, Debra is also passionate about making a difference in people's lives. Welcome to the show,
Hi,
Debra.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here. Yeah.
Happy that you're here. And honestly, for our listeners who don't know who you are, I literally could spend a whole episode just talking about all of your accolades and things that you do, which honestly, it's amazing. It is truly amazing, all
It
that you do.
it basically dates me. It just says, man, I've been around long enough to have all of these things that I've done because I've been in dentistry longer than you've been alive. And I will tell you that I am probably, I know, we're with Weave, and I believe that my husband owned a practice. He just sold it in December. I mean, mentioned that, and we have a new buyer. Now they've retained me as their consultant, which, obviously says a lot to our success. And we could actually even talk about how that transition was so successful. I mean, I've had some horror stories. I know that's not what we're really talking about today, but it was a very successful transition, still is a successful transition. But we were a very early adopter of Weave. I think we were probably one of the very first offices that brought Weave into the practice when it had some glitches, and we worked through those glitches. Now it has different glitches, but it doesn't everything. We love Weave, and I love to be. I'm a Weave fan, and everybody knows it, and I'm not afraid to talk about it.
So, would you call yourself a bow weaver?
Is that a term? A bow
Uh, you
weaver?
know, it is now.
Oh,
And honestly,
a weavy? Is that like a
a
groupie? I'm
weavy,
a weavy.
a weave. You know what? We're gonna make that a thing. We're gonna
A
make
weavy.
T-shirts.
Yeah,
A
I'm a
weavy.
weavy. I'm a
Hashtag
weavy.
weavy.
There, I want a shirt.
You got it. Done.
Yeah.
Done. I'll
And
order
I will
them
tell
now.
you, we're talking about successful practices, and I would say, and I know this is not, you didn't ask me to come on to do a testimonial, but Weave is a very strong ingredient of us being as successful as we are. I truly believe it. That is because of the way we can connect with our patients, almost literally on a 24/7 basis. And your patients, one of the questions you had asked me earlier when you said some of the things we might talk about is, how do you maintain a strong practice? And I think one of the components is accessibility. In today's world, people expect accessibility. I mean, if you can't reach somebody, if they don't respond to your text or they don't respond to your email or your phone call, they think you're dead. I mean, so I think Weave does an amazing job of making it easy and accessible for patients to reach out, and not only just to make appointments, but now we have text to pay. Now we have insurance verification. Now, I mean, there's so many now components to the baby Weave that I first incorporated into the practice, and now there's so many other features of Weave. But once again, it's accessibility to the patient, and I think that's huge. And that's also huge in patient retention, because if we stay connected with them, even when they're not in the office, if we have that way of connecting, whether that be via social media, texting, once again, information accessibility, then the patient's going to say, why would I leave?
Yeah, for sure. So you brought up what our topic today is, which is building a strong practice. And I think you could speak to this too. There's so many different components that go into that. It's not just one thing, which we'll dive into a little bit later. With that, though, of course, we always have our statistics. So our statistic today relates to one of the components of building a strong practice and reviews. And so 86% of patients check the online reviews of a healthcare clinic before requesting an appointment, but only about half of clinics send reminders to leave a review. What has been your experience with getting reviews from your patients?
Great question. And I would guess that as we are speaking, the statistics continue to rise. Because I know in my audiences, I will ask, how do you think your patients find you? And a lot of patients will a lot of attendees will raise their hand and say, word of mouth. And I'll say, you know what? That might be one of the components, but I will guarantee you that if I refer a friend to a practice, that friend will go and Google that practice. Google reviews are huge. Absolutely. So I think one of the things, I'm going to guess 86% might even be now up to almost 90 or 95%. I think it's huge. And I think that one of the things that needs to happen, not only can, we send the text, the invitation for the review, but I think personal invitation is critical. So, when the patient is in the office and they're saying, oh my gosh, this was a great visit, or oh my gosh, you people are great, or, when Dr. Wormlinger joined our practice and one of the patients said, I love him, then I reached out to that patient while she was in the operatory and, getting ready to leave the practice. I said, you know what? It would mean a lot to Dr. Wormlinger if when you write your review, if you would mention him by name. So I think that personal request that is connected to, when they say, I think you're great, you people are awesome, my smile is beautiful, that you say, you know what, thank you so much. And it would really mean a lot to us that when you receive the request to review to submit a review, if you would be specific, either by the person who took care of you today or what we did for you today, it would mean a lot to us. So I think that personal invitation linked to the follow up is huge. I think it increases it.
Reading that statistic, it makes me laugh just because I like to think of myself as someone who does the homework and research, but honestly, probably like 90% of the time, I am checking Google reviews for anything and everything. But I'm also the worst person because I don't leave reviews, but I expect everyone else to leave reviews so I can do it. And I definitely have seen, even just with my eye doctor and my dentist both happen to use Weave. And so both of them have the review reminders. And so getting that reminder for me to leave a review, I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. Because I definitely tell myself, oh yeah, I'll write a review later. And then I don't, and not having that reminder. But I think it helps. And I know my eye doctor, especially, like every time I come in, we always make jokes, and he's very good at making like subtle references to maybe the assistant in the lab, and they'd be like, oh yeah, be sure to include how helpful so and so was in your review. And I'm like, yeah, I will. I
Yeah.
will, now that you said that.
I do know that there are some offices that actually incentivize the team, because they say if a patient mentions you in a review, they put their name in a hat for a raffle at the end of the month. So anytime you're mentioned, I'm not saying it's a bad idea or a good idea, but it is an idea that I know some offices will do that to remind to remind the team to ask patients for reviews. So I think there's that personal connection. My husband is a lot like you, Mo, in that he just had his car serviced, and they called him and asked him if he would write a review, and he always tells people he's going to write a review. He doesn't write a review. I always write a review. I'm one of those people, it's like, and even if it's maybe not a favorable review, I write that review. So it goes back to, not everyone's going to feel comfortable, even though you ask, or even though you send the text reminder. So you have to think about, the more I ask, the more I'll receive. If I only ask a select few, if I don't ask everybody, then I'm not going to get as many. In fact, the other thing that is helpful is that on our appointment cards or our business cards, we actually have the request for a Google review on the card that they receive from the office, and the link to review. So sometimes it takes 3 times for somebody to do something. So let's see, if I ask once, they get a notice once, and then they get a follow-up notice. Hey, you still haven't. We haven't, you still haven't reviewed, or have you reviewed yet, without feeling threatening or icky about it. So I think sometimes it takes 3 times before the call to action will actually be taken.
So, something you had just mentioned is how you leave reviews for everything, even if they are negative. And I think a lot of times when we see reviews, they are negative experiences. I think people are more willing to leave reviews when it's been horrible and bad. And I think that's maybe will make some of our practices a little stressed out, because if they're like, hey, I'm trying to stress people leaving reviews, but I'm only getting negative ones. How can offices navigate that of kind of go, sorry. Ooh, let me reword that. How can offices navigate negative reviews if maybe that's all they're getting?
Well, listen to you going down that rabbit hole. Um, Here we go. Couple things. First of all, social media experts will tell you that if you can bury a negative review, they first of all they say don't be afraid of a negative review because it shows people that you are real. That there are people who are not as you don't have all 5 stars and say, oh yeah, these have been peppered, these have been manufactured. So you have somebody who wasn't as happy. They're saying, okay, well they're real people. Sometimes they're crazy reviews. Sometimes they're from sometimes they're from a disgruntled former employee. I mean, and so there's nothing you can do about that. And so the more you ask for, and the more likelihood you are going to get favorable reviews. However, when you do have a negative review, first of all, you need to address it. And I think you should address it online, and so if it's a legitimate complaint or a legitimate negative review, they had to wait too long, or they felt that they weren't cared for in the manner in which your patients have come to expect. That's exactly the way I would word that. We are sorry that you did not receive the care that our patients have come to expect. We would love to make this right by you. Please call our office so we can find a way to to change your mind about us. So I think to address it, I'm hard on my sleeve here. We had a patient leave a negative review, and we saw it, and we immediately we knew what had happened. We knew the situation, and you're not going to air your dirty laundry. Well, it's because you were this and you did that, and you're an icky person, and blah blah blah. We're not going to. You don't want to get defensive and say this is a false claim, or you did this, therefore we reacted this way. We called that patient and we said, we would like to make this right. Obviously that was a review from you. We knew it happened for whatever reason. It didn't matter at that point. And we reached out to the patient. Patient came back. He's happy. He actually went back in and said, you know what? This is what happened. And I'm so happy in how it was resolved. So if you can find a way to resolve it, and once again, don't blame the reviewer. Don't blame the patient because and we all know we have crazy people. We have people who there's sometimes, if you read some blogs or you read Facebook notices, they'll say, this person left a review and they didn't even come into our office. Well, how did that happen? How did they even, so was it a bad breakup? Was it an ex-boyfriend that left the review? You don't know. So you have to, so then if it's someone you don't even recognize and say, you know what, we are so surprised to read this review because we don't recall you being a patient in our practice. Please call us so we can verify that you are actually are part of our patient base. So I would just be honest and say, wow, we don't recognize you. We're so sorry. Please call us. Verify who you are. Yeah. Deal with it.
If I were to see that kind of review, I would probably be digging to see any more because that's the kind of tea I want to read about.
Yeah.
So at least for me, I feel like that would make me more engaged as a patient because I'm like, wow, this office responds, and also they are not taking any crap from somebody who's trying to sully their good name.
Well, it's interesting. My husband, don't tell him I like him so much, but my husband does a lot of things right. He's been a dentist for over 40 years. He's got a very successful fee-for-service practice. We don't take insurance. We have no accounts receivable. Everything is paid up front. He's done a lot of things right for 40 years. We have built this brand. And a lot of people say, how did you do this? No insurance? How did you, no accounts receivable? But here's what he says. If you do the right thing will always happen. So do the right thing. So if the right thing is to respond to a bad review, do it right. Once again, and and also be accountable and be responsible, and say, that you must have hit us on a day that is absolutely unusual. We would never want our patients to feel the way we must have made you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, taking accountability, being responsible, I think means a lot more to people than we realize. Because
Yeah,
it's definitely me if I see that, like, hey, they own up to their mistakes. Like mistakes happen, no one's perfect. I would feel more confident as a patient going in knowing that, hey, if they were to mess up, I could bring it to their attention and they would fix it,
yeah,
make it right.
yeah.
Versus someone just shrugging me off and I have a horrible experience and I'm like, I'm never going back. I'm more likely to go back if people are just willing to work with me as I work with them.
Yeah.
So, with that, of course, like I mentioned, our topic is building a strong practice, and reviews are part of that. But what are some other components that you think leads to building a strong practice?
Because we were starting this conversation, and this sounds so esoteric and psychobabblish, if you will. I think culture is a strong culture is the foundation of a strong practice. So culture is what drives the practice. It's what makes us move. It directs everything. Our statistics, which I'm a big analytics person, take a look at the statistics. Culture is the foundation. Statistics are measurements and monitoring to, if we're doing the right. It goes back to if we're doing the right thing. But I think building a strong practice has to begin with a very strong culture, and that strong culture has to be not about the metrics. The metrics follow the culture. So it's that build it and they will come. I think that if you're actually production driven, and again, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that we're not going to measure and we're not going to pay attention to the numbers. That's important, because how do we know what to do if we don't know where our practice is going? So we have to know the direction that our practice is going. So I always say that the culture is the mission, which is the road that we are on, and the metrics and the goals are the stops along the way on that road. So the mission, the culture of the practice is the path that we chose to take, and the metrics, the analytics of the practice are the road signs that say we're on the right path. So I'm all about, one of the things you asked me in terms of building a strong culture, if you think about it, 85% of the time we spend with the patient is in communication, and 15% is in clinical application. So are patients choosing us because we cut a great crown or because we have a CEREC machine? That is not why they choose us. It may be one of the reasons why they like to stay, but that's not why they choose us. They choose us because of the way we make them feel while they're in our care. So what's really important is that the culture is about how it has to be, it's got to be doctor driven, but team centric. So if I have a doctor who says he or she has a strong culture of customer service, then he or she has to live that, and they demonstrate that to the team, and they say, wow, they truly believe that. This is not just something that they read in a book or a seminar that they took. And so they modeled the customer service culture, the customer service orientation to the team, and then the team has responsibility of carrying that through to the patient. So I think I might be touching some chords here, and if I am, maybe I should. But some doctors, and I've consulted for over 30 plus years, and I've heard team members and doctors come in and look at a morning huddle and go, I hate my job, and I wish I weren't a dentist, and I should have been a vet, or I should have done something down. And I have kids, and I'm going to tell them not to be a dentist. And look at the schedule. Bleh, this is a horrible day, and I'd rather be on the golf course. And I'm supposed to be the hygienist or the dental assistant who's going into an operator and go, yay, I'm so happy to be here, and I work for this wonderful person, and we're just a really happy family. If we're not a happy family, it's going to show. No matter what we say, it's going to show. So I think it's really important for us to understand. And happy family doesn't mean we're like throwing daisies down and singing, some sort of little happy song every morning. Because there's going to be days that are not going to be great days. We're going to look at the schedule and say, oh my gosh, Mrs. I wish you weren't coming in here today is coming in. And we got to deal with that. So we build ourselves up on that day and we say, okay, it's the game we chose to play. And the patients are choosing us because of the way they feel while they're in our care. They're trusting us not only with their time, they're trusting us with their dental health, they're trusting us with their overall health, they're trusting us with their investment. And we need to respect that, and we need to be careful and mindful of that. And we need to be tender about that. So customer service, I think, will trump clinical abilities every time. Whether that's right or wrong, whether that's good, you could have a great clinician who's a poor communicator, who's struggling, and then you have a very poor communicator, or excuse me, a very poor clinician and a great communicator who's killing it. It's because patients love him or her. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say two thoughts with that is one, when you were talking about how the patients feel, 100%. I mean, me just as a patient, I think, again, back to my dentist and even my eye doctor, I initially went to them because I was looking for someone local, took my insurance, but I have genuinely stayed because of how they make me feel. And even my eye doctor, when I changed jobs, my insurance changed. And my eye doctor's like, oh, they don't take my current insurance, but I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. I will still keep going back to them because the way that you guys make me feel, remember me. And also on top of that, they have it's just great service, and it's a great experience every single time.
And it might be a weird word that we would use, but sometimes wouldn't you say that they just have a great vibe when you walk in? There's a vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, your patients walk in with their senses so acute, they're looking for every sign that they made the right decision. And I have to tell you, in fact, I was at a new dermatologist a couple of weeks ago, and I walked in, and the first thing they did, they asked me for all of my cards, my insurance card and my driver's license. My first was all about the paperwork. It was all about what they had to do to get me registered into the system. And I'll be honest with you, it was like, I mean, it wasn't a bad feeling, but it wasn't a great feeling that I left that day telling everybody what a wonderful experience I had. It was a usual, well, it's a term we've used in dentistry in the past. It was within normal limits. It was basic. They didn't make me feel excited or thrilled to go tell other people. I mean, I was in there. It was very cut and dry appointment, and I didn't talk about them very much. Had they changed that a little bit, there was so many little slight things they could have done that would have made a big difference. They were wearing masks. I know that it doesn't matter if they smile, but even if the woman who was at the front desk and they had the window, they had the little window thing. And the window was open. That's the first step. That was a good sign. But even if she had stood to say, hi, Deborah, it's a pleasure to meet you. I understand you were referred by Dr. Abernathy. We are so gratified when she sends her lovely patients over. Or something to that effect, and say, so that I can get you started, so I can get your information started, would you mind if I asked you for, as opposed to, I need your card, I need your driver's license, I need your, it's like, she sounded like Charlie Brown's parent. It didn't wow me. It didn't thrill me. And I mean, I can kind of remember the name of the doctor, but it was, yeah. So
yeah, that makes a whole difference.
Yeah, that little slight thing. How about standing to greet when they walk in? That basically says, I respect and honor the fact that you are here. How about eye contact? Eye contact is huge. I have a funny story. This happened. My daughter's now 33, so this happened when she was a little girl, and she was referred to the pediatric dentist, and we went in. And the dental assistant stood kind of at the entrance of the door. My daughter was looking at the aquarium. And my daughter, I don't know where she gets this personality, but she's a very strong person, very strong and independent. From the moment she was born, she's been, that independent person. Anyway, the dental assistant came out, and she was kind of semi-lethargic, and she stood at the at the doorway, and she went, Sophie. And my daughter looked at me like, should I go with her or what? And I know the rule. Parents don't go back with the kid. I understand. So I said, go ahead. You're fine. And I could hear. And for those who are listening who are parents, you know, you can hear your child's cry and your child's laugh. No matter where you are, about how many children there are, you can pick out your kid. So I'm hearing this little voice. No. I know it's mine. I'm hearing, no. And then, no. So I decided I'm going to step around the corner. And I says, are we having a problem? And the dental assistant says, excuse me, I have to back up. So as I walked up to the dental assistant, I tucked my head over and I said, hi. And she lifted her head. She goes, oh, hi. I said, you know, smile looks so much better for a child. And she says, sorry, I'm sort of out of it today. I knew I was in trouble. I knew we were in trouble. I'm sort of out of it today. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So then I hear this, no. So I went back in and I said, is there a problem? She says, your daughter doesn't want x-rays today. She doesn't want any. I said, my daughter's 3. You know? So to take the story just a little bit longer, but try and condense it, we won't, you know, they basically said she was non-compliant and they would try again another time. Well, I immediately drove over to one of my clients' office. And I said, can you help me here? And they said, sure. Well, I'll tell you what, Sarah came out. Sarah is a wonderful dental assistant. And I just have to, she's stocky, you know, she's built low to the ground and she's low and wide. She's awesome. And she gets down and she bends down on her knees and she goes, Sophie, hi, my name is Sophie, Sarah, and I'm going to be working with you today. Come on, we got a lot to do. Let's go. Bam, off they go. Same child, no drugs. Well, maybe mommy took some drugs, but no drugs with the child. And the assistant comes out and she says, okay, we've done a panoramic x-ray. We've taken 2 bite wings. We've disclosed her. So show her where she has been brushing. We want you to come back and see before we do the fluoride. Same kid. Who made the difference? My daughter made the difference. I mean, the dental assistant made the difference. It was the assistant changed the whole attitude, changed the whole tone, the whole mood of the appointment. And I'm talking about a 3-year-old, but that is also true of adults. That's also true of adulthood. So when we talk about successful practice, we have to talk about to the person. You know, we could have a treatment coordinator and we have a hygienist, we have a dental assistant. That dental assistant has a tremendous amount of influence over the way that patient's going to feel about their appointment. But everybody does. So there's not a department, there's not a customer service department. There's not a marketing department. We are all responsible for customer service. We are all responsible for marketing. You know, I think about hygienists that they take a look at their schedule and they say, oh, I know Mo Jones. She doesn't need anything. She's not interested. She can't afford it. I've talked to her about that diastema before. She doesn't want to do it. And we have a tendency, I always say, familiarity can sometimes breed apathy. And so I stopped talking to you about some of the things that we've talked about in the past because I think that I'm bombarding you or that I'm boring you. And then we forget to talk. We no longer have a clinical conversation because I don't think you want to hear it anymore. So now we start talking about cats and we start talking about TikTok and we start talking about the murder in Indiana and we talk about all these things and I forget to talk to you about dentistry. I think one of the most important questions that a hygienist asks the patient before he or she starts anything. If Mo, you were my patient of record and we had recommended treatment that you have yet to be completed, the first place I'm going to start is I'm going to say, Mo, I see that we have recommended treatment that you have yet to complete. Tell me what has prevented you from having that done. And so my hygiene conversation, it will start with, here's what we've talked about in the past. We haven't taken care of it. Help me understand why we haven't taken care of it, as opposed to, I got 40 minutes. Sit down, shut up. I got to do an intraoral camera. I got to do a cancer screening exam. I got to do perio charting. I don't have anybody who can help me. Nobody's going to help me perio chart. So I got to do it all by myself. I have 40 minutes and now I got to take pictures and now they've got this new equipment. Now I got to incorporate that into my appointment. So you better not have any questions because I don't have time for your questions. Thank you very much today. No, goodbye. And then we wonder why the patients they don't want to have they don't want an exam. It's just a cleaning. That's the other thing we say. It's just a cleaning. It's time for your cleaning appointment. No, it's time for your dental health maintenance appointment. See, aren't you glad you told me I could go off on a tangent?
honestly, not gonna lie, Deborah, if I ever had a hygienist just kind of have that like attitude, like you just said, I don't think I'd ever come back. Like even just sitting here, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I just wanted to sink further and further down. I was like, okay, like it almost made me feel like I'm sorry I came in for my cleaning that I need for my maintenance. But
Yeah.
okay,
But
we're
here's,
gonna
this
keep
is
going.
this is a story. So, I've been around forever, so I have stories. So my ex-husband called me one day and he asked me if he could talk to me about his dental bill. He lives in Seattle, Washington. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. He asked me if he could talk to me about his dental bill, and we're friends. We were two friends who got married and had a beautiful child. Um, and I said, sure, John, what's going on? He says, well, I got billed for a recall exam. And he said, Don didn't examine me. And I said, wait a minute. I know Don. I know your dentist. Didn't he come into the room while you were in the room? And he said, yeah. I said, did he have little pointy instruments and he put them in your mouth? He said, yeah. He said, but he never really talked to me about my dentistry. He said, he asked me about you and Sophie. He asked me about my work. He asked me about Catherine. We talked about we had random conversation, but he never really focused on my dentistry. So here's what I say about that. Any strength taken to excess becomes a weakness. Yes, it's important to have a relationship. And yes, it's important to socialize to a point with your patient, but especially your patients of record. We have a tendency to think, oh, I know Mo. She's not, we're going to talk about golf. We're going to talk about kids and cats and, movies. But I have to come back to the reason why you're there, Mo, and the reason why you're there is for my clinical expertise and to give you my judgment and make recommendations and give you an update on the status of your dental health. And that's got to be the focal point of that appointment. And the cats and the kids and the movies and that can all come, that is a part of it. So I think sometimes offices, to build a strong practice, they look at that they need a lot of new patients coming in. But I always say, wait a minute, what about the patients you already have? What are you doing with them? What is your, not only, we go back to analytics, what additional treatment is being diagnosed on those patients? And maybe the skills you should hone, the skills you should be working on in your practice is, how are you getting your patients of record to embrace treatment that has already been planned, that has yet to be done. Never assume it's because they can't afford it or they don't want it. I think sometimes we don't talk, the reason that they don't move forward, we don't talk about it anymore, so it must not be important.
So, and I think, like you said, too, there's a really fine balance of where you can still be able to socialize with your patient, but, also inform them. I think about my own dentist when they come in. Of course, the hygienist is like, hey, she's been having issues or pain like here, and he'll look at it. And then in between, like, he's like, okay, I'm checking this tooth for this. And he's doing that. Then he'll ask, like, how things been going? How's weave? And then I think he masters really well being like, okay, so looks like right here, you're doing okay. Or I was having some jaw pain, and he's like, everything looks really good. There's no issue that I can see. He goes, and then he's like, have you been stressed out? And I'm like, definitely. He goes, yeah, I think maybe you're just grinding your teeth a little bit and not knowing it. And I was like, good to know. And so I think he just does a great job where it's like, I feel like I'm cared for as a patient and he gets to know me, but also he's fulfilled his purpose, and I understand where the status of my mouth is, my dental health, and I'm good to go. And even he's like, okay, also he's like, be better about flossing up here by your molar. He's like, because I'm seeing, a little iffy. And he's like, just next time you come in, we may have to do a filling. If you're not taking care. I'm like, oh, okay.
Two things look at me. I'm just like, I've had like a half a cup of coffee and a lot of sugar. It's one of our doctor's birthdays today, so there's sugar involved next door. I'm just telling you. And it is the day after Halloween, so whenever this is going to air, it's just people. There could be a little sugar high going on here. But I think about your patients are visual learners. So once again, we talk about intraoral cameras, we talk about photography, taking pictures. I mean, if you think about this, over 50% of your patients are visual learners. They have to see it to understand it. And I was thinking, as you mentioned that, Mo, and you were talking about the things that are going on with your mouth. And I think this is so random. You're going to say, oh, where did she come up with this? When my dog goes to boarding, and right now, because of this whole respiratory thing with dogs, and, we actually have somebody come in. But when my dog was going and being boarded, I would get a report card at the end of my dog's visit, how well my dog did. And so I always loved it, she was great with other people, or we loved rubbing on her belly, or, whatever it was. And sometimes it was, crazy stuff. I'm thinking, first of all, intraoral cameras or photography is not only should be reserved to new patients, it should also be reserved for patients of record. So if they're telling you that you should be flossing up there, a picture of why you should be flossing up there, a picture of that tissue in that area to show you what they're talking about, and say, see how this area is inflamed and how you're getting a little bit of recession. So you would say, oh, wow, that's what it looks like. Okay, this is healthy. This is not healthy tissue. This is there could be a little bit of disease present here. Number one. But wouldn't it be great to say, you know what? I'm going to follow up with a status report of the things we talked about today. It'd be very easy to get that out. And couldn't I send that through Weave? Could I not send it to my patient through Weave?
Yeah.
That up. You could great to see you, Mo. Here's some of the things we talked about today. Reminder, that'd be your upper right. Make sure you floss a little bit more aggressively, or, I could do that through Weave, couldn't I? Bam. So I say that, so you're writing in, yeah. So then I say, wow, that was a worthwhile visit. Because here's the thing that sometimes doctors or hygienists have a dilemma with. Not as much as it used to, but there used to be this thing where the patient would say, I just want to have my teeth cleaned. I don't want an exam. Can you imagine? I just want to have my teeth cleaned. I don't want an exam today. And so I always ask my audiences, why do you think the patient doesn't want to have an exam? And their answer typically is because the patient doesn't want us to find anything wrong. And I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is the patient doesn't find value in that doctor coming in and doing the flashing blue light special, dine and dash, get them in, get them out while there's an impression in somebody else's mouth, while we're waiting for somebody else to be numb, and not having a intentional conversation with the patient about their findings. So I'm going to go back to, I think that's important. How do we have more intentional conversations with our patients? And I think that builds stronger practices.
I think when you're saying that, it feels like it's almost like a light bulb kind of moment of being intentional. But I think just with a lot of things, we tend to forget the simple stuff is really where it's at.
Absolutely.
Intentional from, how we're creating the culture for our practice, how, we're marketing ourselves, and then how we're being intentional with our patients of, hey, you're here in the chair today, and it is my job, my duty to assess your dental health and tell you what you need to do or to continue to maintain if you're in good status.
Absolutely. And not only intentional conversations, our body language has to say we're intentional. So when I'm having a conversation with a patient, I'm not leaning back, and as though I am ambivalent or I don't care. My body language is I'm leaning slightly forward. In fact, I'm doing a course on this Friday in Phoenix about body language. But my body's leaning slightly forward, and I have eye contact. I'm intentionally listening, and my conversation is focused on that patient. I'm not thinking about, nobody's walking by saying, hey, do you want pepperoni on your pizza today? And I have to be really focused on that patient. So I think that also, and that's when patients, what do they say? Experts will say what patients are looking for in today's world. They are looking for certainly efficiency. Now, efficiency is subjective. It doesn't mean fast. It doesn't mean that we're getting through, so we're not a drive-through window. I can still be efficient and effective. They're looking for efficiency. They're looking for affordability, which is subjective, by the way. So affordability doesn't mean cheap or less expensive. Affordability means I feel value in what I'm paying. So some people think that paying $2,000 for a pair of shoes is very affordable. I'd go pick up dog poop in my backyard and I would forget I had them on, and why am I wearing these shoes? I would forget. So I just don't deserve a pair of $2,000 shoes. But the other thing that they say that patients want, they want an experience. They want to feel something. That's why TikTok is so popular, because it makes you feel something when you watch it. Saving little duckies in a sewer, or saving the elephant in the ditch. It's like, it made us feel something, and that's why we like it so much.
So intentional and feeling with that. I mean,
Intentional and in creating intentional listening and intentional conversations, but also what sort of experience are you providing? Because that's what people talk about. People do not run to their neighbor and said, oh my gosh, you should see my periodontal charting. It is absolutely, here are my bleeding points. See my bleeding score? Isn't that amazing? Or they're going to say, look at the tertiary anatomy of this crown right here. Isn't that amazing? Oh, you would not believe the way you took that impression. No, it's going to be the experience of how I felt as a person, of how they humanized their clinical application.
The experience.
Experiences. And I pay for experience. Think about it.
Yeah.
I pay more. I mean, I'll pay for the experience of driving through McDonald's and get a Happy Meal. I'll pay a certain amount of money for that experience. I will pay a little bit more money for the experience of going to a fine dining restaurant and where I'm getting served. So my fee is also representative of the experience I provide my patients. Fees are based on three things. Well, the experience is one of them, but when we're talking about, when we're looking at our practices, then we have to, when we talk about our fees, one of them is going to be time. So our fees are based on the skill required to do it right, the time it takes to do it well, and the materials that we use. But all of that is bottled up into the experience we provide the patient. So I think that's important.
I think when you say that again, another kind of light bulb moment that really essentially we are paying for experiences, just it's different levels of experiences, right? From the drive-through to like you said, fine dining. It's
absolutely.
And where we find the value, what we find the value in it is what we're willing to put into it or to pay for those things.
Yeah.
In every single aspect, which, I mean, what a different way of thinking. Like, my mind is just kind of going in circles now. Like, wow, what kind of experiences do I pay for all the time?
Exactly.
Well, we are almost out of time.
Yikes.
We do like to leave. I know, right? Listen, maybe we need to have you on another episode on it.
There you go.
We have so much to talk about, but we do like to leave our listeners with a motivational tip. So if you could take one page out of your playbook of success, what would it be?
But my motivational, yes, because I'm a weavy. I would say if I wanted more success in treatment acceptance and my patients' retention, because let's face it, the whole objective is to attract and retain patients, to attract them to the practice and to keep them there. And I would say more time. If we spent more time in the new patient examination process, the new patient experience, and we spent more time in the recare experience, I always say that your recare patients every 5 years should should be treated as though they were brand new to the practice every 5 years. They should receive the same VIP experience that a new patient receives. And you can say, well, we do that all the time. So that means no shortcuts. So I say no shortcuts, take more time with your patients. And I think you're going to have a higher case acceptance rate and a higher referral rate. And that is probably that patient's going to say, wow, they really took the time to get to know me. They took the time to take care of me. They listened to my concerns, and I'm going to review them about that.
So more time and
more time. Shortcuts. Yeah, sometimes in my lectures, I'll say if I were going to do a generic consultation with everybody in my audience, I'll say, spend more time with your patient, especially your new patients and your recare patients.
Okay. Well, good to know. That is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for being with us, Debra. It has been an absolute hoot and pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And thanks to everyone listening. Don't forget to join the Happy Practice Playbook Facebook group, where we'll be discussing this topic more and sharing other helpful resources to help you keep your people happy. And as always, I'll be posting to get all of your tips and tricks as well. If you like what you heard today, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next episode. We hope you'll join us next time. It's your girl, Mo Jones. Woo! All
Okay.
right.